You're listening to Stories Behind the Songs with Chris Blair. For more information, you can find us on Instagram and TikTok at SBT Songs, or check us out at chrisblair.com. Hey guys, Chris Blair here, and this is another episode of Stories Behind the Songs. If you listened last week, we had my buddies Halfway to Hazard on, and you probably heard them talking about how they started their career out touring with Tim McGraw and everything that Tim and Faith have done for them. So I thought it would be fitting this week to sit down with the original drummer for Tim McGraw and the Dance Hall Doctors, Mr. Randy Davis. I took a trip back to close to my hometown in Pevely, Missouri, where Randy now lives. And like I said, he was Tim McGraw's first drummer, spent years on the road playing for other iconic artists, as well as just a history of music in his family. He's going to talk about what his dad has done and just all kinds of cool things. He's going to talk about stories from the road in that perspective that we had not had on the podcast yet. The downsides and best parts of touring, how he now operates his dad's business, Gene's Country Club, where songwriters and artists come to play in Pevely, Missouri. Randy also owns a production company of his own. He writes songs and continues to show his passion for music through his business and connections in the industry. Loved hanging out with Randy. It's a very cool club that he's got, and you're going to hear some really cool stories. So he still comes to Nashville every now and then, and he loves country music and talks about how country music has been in his life forever. So check this out. It's a great episode. Also, remember to check us out on YouTube, like us on Spotify, send this to all your friends. It's you listening that allow us to continue to do this. So we really appreciate the support. Let's get to it. Here is my buddy Randy Davis. Hey everybody, this is another episode of Stories Behind the Songs, and I took a little road trip, and I am in Pevely, Missouri today with Randy Davis. How are you, buddy?
I'm doing great, Chris.
Man, yeah, this is this is my stomping grounds where I grew up, and thank you for sitting down. I told you I've wanted to sit down with everybody that I can in the music industry to tell stories behind the songs and what happens behind the scenes.
Sure.
And when I met you, man, just the stories are incredible. You were Tim McGraw's first drummer. Started
original
the band.
drummer with Tim when he moved to town. He moved in, and actually we became roommates. And I was playing with Alan Frizzell at the time.
Yeah.
And just came back from Canada and met Tim at the Shoney's there on Demembrane, right down there. And he was having lunch with my father, Gene, and a lady from Monroe, Louisiana. They came up to bring Tim to town and introduce him to around. So that's when I met Tim, and he became my roommate. And I'd say about a year later, when he got the record deal and we put the band together, the Dance Hall Doctors.
Yeah.
And so I was with him about 2 years before the Big Indian Outlaw came. My first single, first album. And so I couldn't wait around for his superstardom. I had a family to feed, so I went on. I was a drummer at trade, so I had to keep pounding the road and that kind of thing. So,
well, before that, let's go back and just tell me how you got into music, because your dad, you told me about your dad and everything he did. So you were around this.
I was kind of born in it. My father, Gene, is originally from St. Louis, and he did the music scene here when he got out of the Navy for 3 or 4 years, and did everything you could do. My mom and him went to Los Angeles in 1953, and Dad started playing music out there. Eventually, they give him credit for pioneering the West Coast sound. He, like Ralph Mooney and my dad and the LA scene were a big item. And Dad, he was the band leader at the Palomino Club largest club out there, and it's world famous now. But he was there for about 8 years. So when I was born, I was kind of right in the mix of everything. I grew up basically in country music out there.
Yeah.
And so when I was, I would say, 18, 19, I started touring with a band called Brush Arbor that took me to Nashville, and we were nominated for Vocal Group of the Year in the ACMs and things like that. So I've been into music all my life, really.
Yeah.
But I give mainly the credit growing up with my dad. If it wasn't for him, there would not have been a lot of opportunities, like if I was just a boy from Kansas.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Well, and now we're back here in Pevely, and you run this place, which I love. We told you that the first time I came in here. I was like, this is my kind of place, man. Just so we're here at Gene's Country Club,
right?
And tell me about this, because you opened up, and you just had Kev Moe here not too long ago. You've got some great talent that comes
through. Mo Pitney was here last Friday, but this little place has become legendary over the years. It was opened first in 76. My dad came back here. Like I said, he was a Missouri boy. Him and Mom, kind of semi-retired, bought this place from my uncle and built this club. And since then, like I said, it's kind of legendary in this parts. We've had a lot of great legendary entertainers over the years that knew my dad, and then through me. But we've only been open like on Friday and Saturday nights, but I've cut it down to just Saturdays. And it's just loved by everybody. And, the younger people come in because, like, you can look around and see the stars that knew my dad on the wall and the old booths. So for the young people, it's, like they go, well, this is retro, But we'll have a dance tonight. And
we're coming back.
Yeah, we'll have a good time. And I hear it's your birthday, so.
Well, thank you. Yeah. This week was my birthday. So.
Yeah, we'll celebrate.
All right.
We'll definitely sing to you.
All right, that sounds good. Talk about life on the road. That's one of the things that we haven't been able to really explore on this podcast yet. And I spent long time on the road when I had my band together, and I've gone out with some friends, and I know how grueling and fun it can be. So
that's the hardest part, is the traveling. Is, playing for an hour and a half. It's over with, and then you're back on the bus or in the van, in the trailer, however you travel.
Yeah.
But I've done both. Talking about Tim, when I put the band together with him, we were in a van and trailer, just going all over. And Curb Records put a stop to that because they didn't want their new star perishing in a van with, so. But I've done both. When I was younger, I started out on the road with Brush Arbor. They were on Capitol Records, and we traveled in the van, and it was kind of grueling, and we had 2 vans. And then later on, I would say in the 90s, I worked for David Frizzell for a long time, and luckily he had a bus.
Yeah.
So once you get on the bus, it's kind of spoils you from riding in comfort, And, I love the road. I consider myself an old veteran road dog. I've been everywhere in the United States, Europe, and Canada, and things like that. Things I probably wouldn't have got to do if I'd have been in another type of business, maybe besides a truck driver.
Yeah.
So it was real satisfying. And later on, talking about the bus, I'd say in 2007, I kind of retired from the road. I had back surgery and kind of took a year off. And then I started driving buses. I drove for Darrell Singletary and Earl Thomas Conley and David Still. So I wish I became a bus driver, because I used to travel many miles just to go play drums for half the money.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But it was a rewarding career, as far as satisfactorily. I got to do musically what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
And being, like I said, a sideman and a drummer, you have to work for artists, and being a drummer especially, you have to be in a band. You can't just go out and really do any solo stuff.
Yeah.
But I enjoyed it over the years. I'm fully, I'd say, semi-retired now. I own this place, and I've got a RV park here, and this has always been home where I'd come for Christmas and Thanksgiving. But I've been back here since, I'd say, 2010, 11 now, permanently. But I lived in Nashville for many years, and I love Nashville. If I had to move anywhere, it'd be back to Nashville.
Yeah, man. I love it there. Uh-huh. What's your best road story? There's got to be some crazy stories from the road.
Oh well, so many. I know. I could probably pick out some ones I could talk about,
and some that you can't,
and some of them I can't.
Yeah.
But road stories. Trying to think of something that's. The worst thing about the road is if your transportation. We always had good luck, traveling, and but I remember talking about Tim now. We had the van and trailer, and it was his first time on the road. He was right out of the chute green, making his second trip. Well, his father, Tug, bought us a van and trailer, ran perfect until we went out on the road, and then flat tires and things like that. And my buddy John Marcus has pictures of Tim with the tires on the side of the road, Little things like that, you remember. But there's just been so many different places I've been, I'd have to just narrow it down to a memory of a town or something like that.
What do you think the coolest place that you ever got to go to and play was?
I love everything in the States, but I did a couple of USO tours. Mm-hmm. And there I got to see the pyramids and all of Europe and the Sinai Desert, and I really enjoyed that, getting to play music and seeing the sights, which I never thought I'd really go visit. Things like that. My favorite place that I ever played personally would have been it was for the government. It was down in the Sinai Desert, where I wouldn't go now, in these days of time. But I got to go there in the Sinai Desert and do some shows for the troops, and snorkel in the Red Sea, things like that. You just, but that's, playing the Grand Ole Opry and you compare that, which is cooler, snorkeling in the Red Sea or playing the Grand Ole Opry. I'd probably take the Grand Ole Opry, just because that's a, good honor to get to play where the greats have played.
Absolutely.
Things like that.
Yeah.
But I'm kind of done with the road. If I was a younger man, I'd be right back out there. Yeah. I mean, forever. That's what I did, and enjoyed it. But I'm enjoying my life right now. My son helps me here at the club. Yeah. And we have great bands that come in and out, and we have artists from Nashville periodically. And so the road is tough, and some musicians, they just can't do it. And it depends on your relationship. I was always married and on the road. Once I was in my late 20s, things like that. And it's kind of tough on the family and everything, but My dad, he wasn't on the road much. When he left the Palomino Club in North Hollywood, he went to work for Roger Miller during Roger's heyday and was on the road. But he always had the good gigs in Los Angeles and the top band, and so he didn't have to tour. You know, he had a recording career, but even if he had a 45 or a record coming on the charts or whatever, he just never seemed to let go of what he had in Los Angeles. You know, and everybody else did. You know, they all went out there and beat the road, and a lot of the people that's played for him over the years became big stars. Yeah. You know? But Dad never really did the road much besides with Roger. When we lived in Nashville I would say 66, 67, we moved there. I was in junior high. Dad did the road a little bit with Jeannie Seeley and Leroy Van Dyke. He was a guitar player too, but Dad's main thing was he was known as an entertainer, songwriter, and band leader. His bands were, he was the first to win the Academy of Country Music of Band of the Year. Once he left the Palomino, Buck and Merle kind of took over and had the hits, and that's where everybody gives credit for what they call the West Coast sound. Yeah. And they helped that with their songs and recording. But before that, the West Coast sound was being right there in Los Angeles, I consider. Yeah. I always hate to say this, but, they said, it comes from Bakersfield. I said, oh, that's just a few pickers that couldn't afford rent down in Los Angeles, But I'm probably wrong about that. I was just a kid, So, but right now, I'm content being off the road. I still own a little production company that I do some recording, and I'm a songwriter myself, but country music's changed so much, and I own 2 or 3 publishing companies with great catalogs, but at this point in time, it's hard pitching to some of the newer acts. Yeah. Because they're writing their own stuff. They are, yeah. And everything I've got's pretty, I would say, classic country retro kind of stuff. If it ever comes back, I'll have a gold mine. Yeah.
This episode is brought to you by All Clear Audio. All Clear Audio is a custom and universal in-ear monitor company based in Minneapolis, Minnesota, with a storefront right here in Nashville, Tennessee, where we film the Stories Behind the Songs podcast. All Clear strives to not only be the leading provider of high-quality custom and universal fit in-ear monitors, but also leads the way in customer service and care. With custom starting at dual driver all the way to 13 drivers, there's something for everyone. Head over to allclair.com, that's ALCLAIR.com, and use our code SBTSongs to receive 10% off. Thank you for the sponsorship. We love you guys at All Clear, and we hope that everyone out there listening takes advantage of this and enjoys them as well. Yeah. What's your thought on the way that country music is today?
I would say the way I look at country music today is a lot of guys my age who grew up with Buck Owens and Led Zeppelin, and being a drummer, they brought it with the drums and the bass and the bigger sound. It's more bigger productions. They've got rid of the steel guitar, and I always said it's not a country band unless you have a steel guitar in the band. Things like that, and it just in the old days it seemed like all the great songwriters, there was just one songwriter. Now there's 4 or 5 that write the songs. So, yeah. And it's subject matter, what you talk about, but I think it's alive and well. Yeah. I have a few friends that are still out there doing it and having some success, and I know a lot of songwriters that award winners, or old buddies of mine that started in Tennessee with me and now are, award-winning songwriters.
Yeah.
And but country music today, I'm a traditional country guy, but I grew up in the 70s with classic rock and things like that. When I was touring with Brush Arbor, playing with Johnny Cash and Mac Davis and all those type of people, I'd rather have been in Humble Pie or Bad Company, things like that.
Yeah.
And that's where country music kind of wound up with drums, and people my generation grew up to be the producers.
Yeah.
And but right here at Gene's now, tonight you'll have full-blown honky-tonk classic country. I kind of book the bands that keep it, 60s to, it doesn't go much past that. I have a couple bands that play what I consider new country. And I have new artists come in. I have like Mo Pitney's an up-and-coming artist. Mm-hmm. He's one of my favorites. Then I'll have some boys from Texas, like Dallas Moore, that's still out there touring and doing well. So I'm going to keep the tradition going as long as I can. And then my son has grown up in the business too, so he kind of has a eye for what, the tradition would be. So, but I'm going to have to come down and visit you back in Tennessee. I hear that you
please do.
Things going on down there. We'll get together, and we're going to celebrate your birthday tonight.
We are, yes. It's going to be a blast. I can't wait to see everybody here tonight, and just I look around the room, and it's just the all of the pictures and everything. It's just. It's so cool. It's got to feel real good in your shoes. Most of the pictures I've put up here are people that my father was associated with or played with, and me personally, people I've played with. That's what I've put up on the wall. On this side over here is kind of that little corner over there is like my heroes, people that I listen to. Yeah. And, but yeah, a lot of the people come in, and a lot of them are autographed. And Dad, over the years, he's had Johnny Paycheck, Hank Thompson, the Drifting Cowboys, Noki Edwards, and a lot of his old musician friends and songwriters have played here over the years. Yeah. And they've signed my door over there. Yeah. And, so I get a kick out of, I'd say, people under 30 that come in here, and it's kind of inspirational for them. Yeah, absolutely. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, we stood right over there at the corner of the bar when I met you, and I just I was blown away at these stories that you were telling, and you were talking about David. I sent Corey Frizzell, a good buddy of mine. I sent him a text, and I was like, hey.
Corey's played here. Yeah. He brought his little band up from Nashville on a Halloween. This has been about 3 years ago. Yeah. And he played Halloween night for me. And I've known his father, since I was 19. I first met his dad, Alan. And David, Alan hired me to play up in Reno with them, backing David. That's when I first met David and Alan. Yeah. And long before Corey was born. Yeah. And but I'm close family friends with the Frizzells, and I was on the road with David for about 15 years, but before that I toured Canada and Europe with Alan. Yeah. And this is I know all the kids. I've known several of the ex-moms and grandmas and everybody. Yeah. In fact, my half-sister is Tina Frizzell, and her mother was Betty Frizzell, David and Lefty and Alan's older sister, younger than Lefty. And we didn't grow up together, but I became good friends after I joined David and Alan in Reno. This is back in the late 70s, I'd say.
Yeah.
Long before David was, a big star himself. He was touring with Buck Owens and people like that, but he hadn't had the big record with Shelley. So Alan Frizzell is one of my all-time favorite country singers. And Alan's played here. And in fact, coming up on November 18th will be 40 years. My son will be 40 years old. That tells you how old I am. But I was playing drums on the road with Alan and Leona when my son was born. And they came here and did a show the day after my son was born, 40 years ago.
Wow.
And Leona comes back every November and does us a show here right around Brandon's birthday. In fact, she'll be here in November.
Man, that's so cool.
And so...
Yeah, they spoke very highly of you. Corey texted right back, and he was like, love that guy. He's basically my cousin,
Yeah,
well,
Corey would be not by, I would say blood related, but like I said, my half-sister is full-blown Frizzell.
Yeah.
And so I guess Corey would be my half-cousin.
Yeah.
But I've known, Corey and Jade and Tess, before they were born.
Yeah.
And I knew Shelley when I lived in Nashville as a kid. I guess I was about in 7th grade. We lived out there in Madison. We lived 3 doors down from Dottie. And one of my first little garage bands was with Mo West, Dottie's son, who's no longer with us, but Shelley, just a little bitty girl playing in the dollhouse. And then I also, I moved back to Los Angeles and grew up, and then she married Alan, and I became friends with her, and then, so it goes on, the stories. But yeah, the Frizzells, I love them all, and they treat me like family, and that's, when I go down there, I visit them all the time. And
yeah.
So I haven't seen Corey since about 3 years ago.
Yeah.
But, I'm working on a thing. His older sister, Tess Frizzell, who's Alan and Shelley's girl, she's out singing now, and her boyfriend, I believe Bobby Tumberland or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tumberland, yeah.
And I'm going to try to get them up here and do a show. And I have a lot of the songwriters come up and do me shows. Will Nance, you probably know Will.
Yeah, I know Will very
Max
well.
T. Barnes, and like I said, Leona. And over the years, a lot of great entertainers that are mainly known as songwriters. Yeah. But they can pick and grin, too.
Yep.
But we'll get Corey back up, and I should just, if I call Uncle David, I can just get the whole brew up here.
That'd be so cool. Yeah. We'll have to make a road trip back for that. So.
Yeah, we sure will.
Yeah. Well, man, thank you so much for sitting down. It's great to sit down with a road guy and share, how.
You asked me about road stories.
Yeah.
As soon as we're done with this, there'll be 15 pop in my head. I said, I should have told him that, but we'll do it again.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, Chris.
Before we wrap, I always end on the same question. So, knowing everything that you've done, and all the time out on the road and growing up in this, if you're able to go back to 8-year-old Randy, what advice do you give yourself today?
Become a guitar player or a piano player. When I was 8 years old, I was wanting to play the drums. My dad's drummer was Mel Taylor of the Ventures, who gave me my first sticks, and then the Beatles come out. I was hooked. But as 8 years old, I give my advice, and I was around so many great guitar players growing up. my dad was a good guitar player, but as a kid, I knew James Burton and Joe Mathis, and just I was around them all. Merle Travis as a kid. I would probably said, learn how to pick a little bit. Now I can play guitar. I songwrite, but I couldn't do it to make a living. But that's probably what I would do. I would have channeled myself being more out front, where I could have progressed as my claim to fame is when I was in Brush Arbor, we won Vocal Group of the Year in 1974 at the Academy of Country Music, and I was the only one in the band that didn't sing. So that's my claim to fame.
Yeah.
And I probably sang more as a kid, but I was wanting to be a drummer, and I fulfilled that, But 8 years old, I'd like to go back to 8 years old if I knew what I knew now. But I wouldn't change nothing really.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, you've had a great career, man. So I think drums was the way to go.
I wouldn't, got to do what I did and travel on the road if I hadn't become a drummer.
Yeah.
And so, I don't have any regrets about anything.
Yeah.
I miss the road, and I miss the camaraderie of the boys in the band and things like that. But now that I own this place, I just tell them to all come visit me,
There you go.
So,
yeah.
But Chris, I've enjoyed you stopping by, and we're going to carry on this later on.
We sure are. We're going to have a good time tonight.
Yeah, I have a great band tonight. Singers, songwriters, and so if anybody's out there listening to us today, stop by if you're in Pevely, Missouri. We're just 30 minutes south of St. Louis.
Yeah,
so.
We'll put the address in the liner notes too, so everybody can come down and check it out. So I appreciate it, man. It's been a blast.
Well, I'm glad you stopped by, and it's been about 2 weeks since I met you. You and your lovely wife came in, and so
we were in town for my 30th high school reunion.
Oh, well, good.
Crazy.
My 50th was this last year, and then, I don't know if there's anybody left. So that was out in Los Angeles. So I didn't make that.
Yeah.
So thank you so much, pal.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Very good.
This has been another episode of Stories Behind the Songs, and you've been listening to Randy Davis. We'll see you next time.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Stories Behind the Songs with Chris Blair. Make sure to give us a follow on Spotify if you enjoyed this episode, and make sure you click that notification button so you can keep notified when new episodes come out. We release brand new episodes every Tuesday, and you can find us on YouTube at Stories Behind the Songs with Chris Blair, or anywhere you listen to podcasts. Don't forget to send us a comment letting us know what you thought of the episodes. We love getting your feedback, and share this with your friends. The more we grow, the more that we can keep doing this. It's our mission to bring you all of these great stories behind the songs from some of Nashville's most iconic artists and songwriters, publishers, producers, everyone in between, and a lot of my great friends. We love what we do, and we love sharing their stories with you. We appreciate all of the continued support. Thanks also to all of our sponsors, and we will see you all next week.